Is this my water? No. Good morning. And welcome to this Sunday morning worship at the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. On May 25th, the end of May, when we wear 4 layers of clothes, I can't bear to put our winter boots on one more time. It's a confusing time. We are glad to see you here today, whether here in the sanctuary or watching at home on Zoom, or whether you find us later online. Whoever you are, whatever your beliefs, your way of being, you are welcome here. Whatever your truths or your doubts, whatever your worries and your hopes, whatever journey has brought you here, we welcome you. Whether your heart is burdened by sadness or bubbling with joy, we welcome you. We are a strong and caring community, bound together by love, committed both to nurturing our own and each other's spiritual well-being, and to working together in a larger community to build a better world. We gather today on land known as Ndakina to the Nolhegan Abenaki tribe, the original residents of this area. Despite intentional efforts at their eradication, they and their language and their culture are still among us. We respect their spiritual relationship to the land and waters of the Champlain Valley, and we aspire to learn from them how to live in balance with the earth. My name is Abi Sessions, and I'm a member of this congregation and the worship team. I've had the pleasure and honor of working along with many others this week. Christina Sillari, our interim co-minister, Liam Batchis, our slides master, Richard Hopkins and Mary Hadley, our tech team today, Jess Daniel of the Flower Buds, our sanctuary beautifier, Jen Cohen, our music director, and all the folks downstairs, Miles Petterly, Julie Chippendale, Sue Rasmussen, and somebody who made a birthday cake for all the May birthdays. And I'm sorry to say, Michelle Lowy, who made the birthday cake for the May birthdays. We've worked together to co-create this worship experience on Memorial Day Sunday, when we pause from our busy lives and remember with gratitude both those who have lost their lives in military service and those who came home. I'd like to invite Johnny and Catherine Carter to light the chalice. Johnny and Catherine will light the chalice. Please join me in reciting the chalice lighting written by Cynthia Landrum. In honor of those who have served and those who continue to serve at home and abroad, for peace and in war, we light our chalice and we offer our thanks.
Good morning. It's good to be with you all today. Thanks for coming on this holiday, dreary weekend. So our opening words are by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, and they're from his speech in 1967 in New York City beyond Vietnam, a time to break silence. Even when pressed by the demands of inner truth, men do not easily assume the task of opposing their government's policy, especially in time of war. Nor does the human spirit move without great difficulty against all the apathy of conformist thought within one's own bosom and in the surrounding world. And some of us who have already begun to break the silence of the night have found that the calling to speak is often a vocation of agony. But we must speak. We must speak with all the humility that is appropriate to our limited vision, but we must speak. These are the times for real choices and not false ones. We are at the moment when our lives must be placed on the line if our nation is to survive its own folly. Every man of humane convictions must decide on the protest that best suits his convictions. But we must all protest. Please join in singing hymn number 162, Gonna Lay Down My Sword and Shield.
Down by the riverside, lay down my sword and shield. Down by the riverside, no study more, no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study no more. Ain't gonna study war no more. Ain't gonna study war no more.
The kids went right over to the Fenn house this morning, so there is no time for all ages. So I'm just going to tell you about pathways to connection. Many ways that you can connect with others within our congregation and beyond. The first is happening this weekend. Our great, fantastic 15th annual, much to Johanna's surprise, Rhubarb Festival, which began Yes, let's have it. Woo! It's a great time for everyone. It's a kind of a celebration of spring and rhubarb. I'd like you to notice the rhubarb-themed dress today from the pulpit, and the two lovely bouquets of rhubarb. Well, one's not so lovely, but that one's looking pretty good. This one looked a lot better before I put water in the vase. Anyway, we need pie bakers on Thursday and Friday, and I have to say, I never really participated in the putting on of the Rhubarb Festival until last year when I signed up for a pie bee, and it was a blast. It was so much fun. There's a team, there are mixers, there are rollers, there are placers, there are fillers, there are toppers, and there are bakers. So choose your role. There's many open to you. And Lise, who's organizing the Pie Bees, says, please register online on the website if you're coming so that the team who's organizing can stop panicking. So do them a favor and sign up early. And come on Saturday from 10 to 1 to participate in the 15th annual Rhubarb Festival. And if you have rhubarb, figure out a way to get it here. You could consult with Mary Hadley in the back of the room there, or Marnie Wood. Where's Marnie? Oh yeah, Marnie, way on the other side, dressed in her rhubarb finery, for how you could manage to get your rhubarb here, right? Something for everyone. On a shorter timeline, this afternoon, there is a walk led by Mike Greenwood and Liam Batchis. Liam back there, Mike back there. If you need to talk to them, meeting in the Blue Room after social hour. Get a cup of coffee, come to the Blue Room, and they will be, if you've noticed the slides, they are slides from the place where the walk will be happening, the Shoreham Sculpture Park, quite a remarkable location right here in Addison County. And it's going to not be raining, so go for it while you can. And then next 2 weeks from today is the CVUUS annual meeting. And I have it on good authority that the board is a little concerned about a quorum. So it's important that you make the effort and make the time to be here for our annual meeting on June 8th so that we can get our business done. It won't be very long, right? Right, Madam Chair? Right. It'll be efficient. Our offering, it's time to take the offering, which we will share. We share our offering 50-50 with organizations, either locally or nationally or worldwide, who act on behalf of our values. Today, this month, the month of May, we're sharing with the Breadloaf Mountain Zen Center, now of Middlebury, on Court Street, just moved to their new location. And please be as generous as you're able.
Thank you for your generosity. All righty. So these are our milestones and passages. Okay. We have a few from Laura, our office admin. And she says, deepest thanks to the amazing facilities team, and I agree, and many volunteers, including those who transformed Fenn Chapel and participated in Blue Jeans Day. Among them was Terry Arnold, who we think is going to be our next gatherer program, help with the events in the congregation. She did leave this week. She's coming back mid-July to continue in this role, and we're really excited about that. And if anybody's interested in going to the facilities team meeting, it's this Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Another one from Laura, Vermont Legal Aid thanks us, CVUUS, for hosting them this week for a second time to help migrant families prepare guardianship paperwork in the event of the deportation. And Priscilla and Steve Meyer's son helped out this year. So thank you. What's his name? Jeff. Thank you to Jeff. All right. Wonderful to see, this is from Marnie, that our CVUUS member Tracy Harrington, she's not, I don't see her here today, has been named the new principal of Salisbury School. We are aware of her talents as an experienced educator in our school district. Congratulations, Tracy. How fortunate Salisbury School is to have you at the helm this coming school year. This is from Catherine Carter. Yeah, my heart aches as I write this because the state of public health is on the precipice of collapse. Immunization program nurse positions have been cut statewide, and populations historically underserved and underrepresented will be left out with any key preventative care measures. I urge you all to call upon local representation to speak up and for public health. We need each other more than ever. We are stronger when we are united. Thank you. This is from Claire Tessier. I'm happy that my daughter Jessica is joining us today. I was wondering who that beautiful young woman is for this service. Welcome, Jessica. This is from Quirly Beloved. Join Quirly Beloved for a potluck this Tuesday, 4 to 6, on the south lawn of Marble Works. We are creating a joyous festival because we can and we must celebrate beloved community. All are welcome. So that's Tuesday, 4 to 6 at Marble Works on the lawn. Elio Farley, I turned 23. Where are you? On Friday. Happy birthday. Do you eat carrot cake? Oh, it's downstairs, just for you. And it says, very grateful to enter this next year alongside so many dear loved ones. Much care to CVUUS. I think that's it. Amen. So we're going to spend 3 minutes in silence. 3 whole minutes. That's 60 seconds times 3. That's 6 times 3. Okay. So I invite us to settle in, arriving in your body, in this amazing sanctuary. If you haven't arrived yet, find your breath, your heart. And I'll mark the silence with bells. I was born in the early 60s in the middle of the Vietnam War. My childhood was so sheltered by my culture, my family, my educational system, that I did not know about the war. I wasn't allowed to watch television, listen to the news, and I barely left the town I grew up in. It wasn't until my late teens when I ventured out to Harvard Square, just a few miles from my home, that I began to learn about the war, both from the protesters and the people who had been there. I particularly remember Reggie, a beautiful, black, intelligent, creative man whom I met on a sunny spring afternoon in the park. Reggie was a Vietnam veteran. Even though his brain didn't work as good as it used to and he was in pain, Reggie felt lucky to be alive. His beauty and energy drew me to him. And he was homeless and hopeless. He had killed countless Vietnamese people, men, women, and children. He hated himself and suffered from extreme shame and guilt. He felt abandoned by his family and his country, betrayed by the military and by God. Dr. King, who we heard earlier, spoke out against the cost of this war, trying to give a voice to the voiceless people like Reggie. In his Beyond Vietnam speech, he said,
I am deeply concerned about our troops, for it occurs to me that what we are submitting them to in Vietnam is not simply the brutalizing process that goes on in any war, but we are adding cynicism to the process of death. For they must know, after a short period, that there are none of the things, that none of the things we claim to be fighting for are really involved. Before long, they must know that their government has sent them into a struggle among Vietnamese, and the more sophisticated surely realize that we are on the side of the wealthy and the secure, while we create a hell for the poor.
King goes on later in his speech addressing moral injury, quote, now it should be incandescently clear that no one who has any concern for the integrity and life of America today can ignore the present war. And if America's soul becomes totally poisoned, part of the autopsy must read Vietnam. Reggie was living in the hell that King spoke of. My heart, because I hadn't known about any of this, broke open with Reggie. My mind became aware and illuminated, and seeds of pacifism were planted in my soul as I listened to his stories over many encounters with him. Reggie carried a little book, a tattered book with scraps of newspaper and magazine stuff in it, as well as things that he had written. And once he read me a poem by Langston Hughes, whom I had not yet heard of. The poem was The Face of War.
The face of war is my face. The face of war is your face. What color is the face of war? Brown, black, white. Your face and my face. Death is the broom I take in my hands to sweep the world clean. I sweep and I sweep, then mop and I mop. I dip my broom in blood, my mop in blood. and blame you for this because you are there, enemy. It's hard to blame me because I am here. So I kill you, and you kill me. My name, like your name, is war.
Once I got to college, I learned that Reggie had PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and TBI, traumatic brain injury. But it wasn't until I went to seminary that I learned that Reggie also suffered from moral injury. How many of you know what moral injury is? Good thing I'm preaching about it. Clinical psychiatrist and recipient of the MacArthur Genius Grant, Dr. Jonathan Shea, coined the term moral injury in the 90s when studying the effects of the Vietnam War. He believes the phenomena of moral injury has been with us since the dawn of humanity. In particular, he found a striking parallel between his patients' war experiences and that of the warriors portrayed in the Iliad, which I actually read in high school in Latin, which is Homer's epic poem about fighting in the 10-year-long Trojan War in the 8th century BC. Shea defines moral injury as the damage done to one's conscience or moral compass when that person perpetrates, witnesses, or fails to prevent acts that transgress one's own moral beliefs, values, or ethical codes of conduct. Although theologians and philosophers have been exploring moral injury for a long time, it is a new concept for many. Limited awareness of the impact of moral injury on human beings has left our society and service organizations at a loss on how to treat it. It's not PTSD or TBI, which are mental and physiological conditions of trauma. Moral injury affects the soul of a human being. Moral injury does not, by its nature, present itself immediately. Some will experience moral injury days after an incident, but for many others, difficulties may not surface for years. This soul anguish, this broken spirit that none of us ever want our children to experience, is moral injury, which can also be defined as a deep soul wound that pierces a person's identity, sense of morality, and relationship to society. All of us experience some form of moral injury at one point or another. Minor moral injuries are like little bruises or twinges, but we can easily shake them off. We cause or see harm to somebody, like when I yell at my husband. When we are silent and we know we should speak out, but we don't. When we lie about important things. Yet some moral injuries are so profound and devastating they cause lasting damage to the soul. And we can recognize moral injury in someone when we see the empty stare of a broken spirit. Could be someone living in poverty, people struggling with addiction, people carrying unprocessed grief or guilt. War is one but not the only thing that can cause this soul loss. Abuse, rape, any kind of violence may cause similar types of damage. Researchers are also discovering moral injury among other professions. Doctors, are often called to their profession with the intention of helping or healing or even saving people's lives. And when they see too many deaths or unable to provide high quality health care to their patients, they may experience moral trauma. Law enforcement officers are often called to make communities safer. But if they kill or witness the killing of people or find themselves in a corrupt organization, they may experience moral trauma. People who have experienced natural disasters, like the recent earthquake in Myanmar, the floods in Haiti, the storms here in the US, all of this can cause soul loss. Systems and institutions can also foster moral injury. Our immigration system and our prison system, to name a few. Often moral injury impacts the most vulnerable among us: the poor, the black, the brown. Listen again to the words of Dr. King.
I knew that America would never invest the necessary funds or energies in rehabilitation of its poor, so long as adventures like Vietnam continued to draw men and skills and money like some demonic, destructive suction tube. So I was increasingly compelled to see the war as an enemy of the poor and to attack it as such.
Our country is a war-making machine. So in addition to the moral injuries so many veterans experience due to war, we as a nation spend an incredible amount of money on war, which could, and in my opinion, should be used to support the basic needs of all people living in this country. Even though we saying, I ain't gonna study war no more, I am super grateful to people who do study war, especially the 24 independent scholars of history, economics, and warfare involved in the Cost of War project, who tell us what the government would like us to ignore. Beginning with the fact that the United States has paid out more than $8 trillion. Can we imagine how much money that is? Maybe some of you who are in economics or whatever can. Yes, $8 trillion since 9/11 for missions to Afghanistan, Iraq, and Pakistan. If you can't think in forms of trillions, we can think of equivalences and opportunities lost. So money for 21st century wars could have retired all student debt 5 times over. Could have built thousands of miles of high-speed rail. Could have financed Medicare for all of us. And these wars are the primary reason for what? Our national debt. And who pays our national debt? We do, with our taxes. In 2023, the federal government spent $1.1 trillion on war and weapons, law enforcement, mass incarceration, deportation, and detention. In Vermont, the amount of money that Vermont spent in these tax dollars, if it didn't go to all of what I said, if we just didn't pay for deportation and border control, which Vermont does, we could have instead subsidized over 7,000 public housing units. if we didn't support nuclear weapons in Vermont, we could provide health insurance for 8,400 children. So it's not easy, right? Are you feeling uncomfortable? You're all so quiet. This is hard, right? Thank you for listening. It's not easy to digest this information, but we have to know this, or we just walk around oblivious, right? In our little bubble. If we want to change this country and move ourselves and our leaders away from militarism and towards humanism, we got to think about this. And maybe I understand, like I know there's a lot of people in my life, including family members, who would say, we need our military to protect us. I get that. So facts and figures may not impact you, but stories do. So I have another story. After a very odd synchronistic morning, which I won't get into, a few months ago, I found myself sitting with Steve at a Dunkin' Donuts in Portland. Steve was a little under the weather as he had just had surgery on his cervical spine, which is one of the many health complications he incurred from his time in the military. He grew up in Portland, and at the age of 17, he joined the military, the Army actually, to get out of Portland and get some space from his dysfunctional family. He became an airborne paratrooper and spent a year in Korea during a ceasefire where he witnessed the horror of the U.S. influence on Korean culture through the sex trade used to keep American soldiers happy. He started drinking alcohol when he was in high school, and his dependency grew during the first years in the military. Steve told me that although the armed forces are strongly against drugs, they really encourage people to drink alcohol. At 25, he was back in Portland and knew he needed to get sober. So he started going to AA, and he got better. And he landed a good job, he got married, and he had a baby. Years later, he was called to train Iraqi soldiers to fight like American Marines, which he said was an unworkable mission. He witnessed the unnecessary death of 90 of these Iraqi soldiers that he was training. He said they left the city worse than when they got there, while destroying the enemy's enemy. And then Steve fought in Fallujah, Iraq, in 2004 when he was blown up in a Humvee 3 different times. Receiving letters from kids thanking him for serving his country, being invited to sit in first class on his way home, and people cheering when he got off the plane in the States, all made him feel uncomfortable and cynical because of a false sense of patriotism our culture has about war, and how the whole system of war, he said, helps the rich get richer. He described to me the night of 1,000 missiles, which I had never heard of, in Iraq, when 84 missiles were launched, costing $750,000 each. So Steve began drinking again when he got home, of course, after being sober for 16 years, and the drinking and the trauma made it difficult for Steve to rebuild his life in Portland. His marriage ended, he couldn't work, he had a hard time being a father, and he couldn't really talk to anyone about his experiences. Soldiers are not supposed to have opinions about war, he said. They are told that they are conservative Republicans when they join the military, and they are not supposed to be emotional. Steve is back in recovery and he's doing better. I asked him if he ever heard of moral injury, and I explained what it was to him. Tears started rolling down his eyes as he recognized the pain his soul had been carrying. And then he mentioned that 22 soldiers commit suicide every day. I asked him if he thinks of killing himself. No, he said. I'm trying to be a father now. I like talking with other veterans, and I want to paint and make music. Steve feels like he's one of the lucky ones, willing and able to heal his soul from the wounds of war. So as we can see, moral injury can lead to distress, depression, suicidality. The effects of moral injury go beyond the individual because they impact the whole family and community. Issues of trust. So the only way to heal moral injury, individuals can't really heal it on their own. They need communities to heal it in a shared process of healing. They need people to listen to their stories without trying to fix them or even reassuring them or formulas. We just need to be empathetic, open-hearted, non-judgmental, right, to folks and let them tell their stories. In some ways, you know, if you're feeling heavy right now, this isn't just about the soldiers, or maybe you've been in a war. We all know someone who's been. It affects the whole community, the whole state of not just our nation, but our world. And our news continuously reminds us, right, of our immoral behavior in this country. So we're experiencing this moral injury just by witnessing what's going on in our country right now. So we need to talk to each other. We need to listen to each other's stories of moral injury so we can form a larger meaning statement for our culture, so we can help each other become resilient and use our collective trauma as wisdom to move forward. One of the people I studied moral injury with was author, theologian, and activist, senior vice president and director of the Shea Moral Injury Center at Volunteers of America, the Reverend Dr. Nita Nakashima Brock. And she says,
faith communities are crucial to the recovery process for moral injury. Why? First, moral injury is not a particular disorder limited to veterans, but an anguishing experience of moral failure that can happen to any human being with a conscience and capacity for empathy. Second, moral injury is not a psychiatric disorder with a clear diagnosis or symptom profile. And third, the anguish of moral injury is, paradoxically, the revelation of a core humanity and a reminder of moral conscience.
so even though moral injury is a burden, you know, a war burden carried by a few, we need to understand that burden and its impact on the soul of all of us, on our nation, and on humanity. So listening to stories not just from veterans, but from anybody who has been through trauma, right? Immigrants, queer people, black and brown and native people. You could read a book on moral injury. There's videos out there. One thing that gives me hope around this is there's a lot of work being done for veterans and for moral injury with the arts, that there's alternative healing modalities, because we need to get this to the soul, right? A drug isn't going to do it. You know, there's no like actual remedy for this. So artistic expression is a great way to help heal moral injury. So H.C. Palmer, he's a medical doctor who was drafted and served in Vietnam, and he uses poetry to heal himself and his readers from the moral injury of war. Listen to his poem, Finding Work After the War.
For a long time, there were simultaneous wars, so work was good. Now the wars are winding down and our poor are unemployed. They phone government hotlines, then get disconnected. I know a stonemason disabled from battling his chisel. He says there will always be his kind of work. Thousands of gravestones stockpiled in the quarries of Vermont. He says he's willing to teach, but worries some might inscribe their own names before praying into the muzzle of a Colt 45.
Moral injury is an important social issue of our times. It's political, cultural, and spiritual. And not everyone can see it or wants to see it, because some people are trapped in the manipulation and brainwashing by those who profit from the war economy, who tell us we need war to be safe, that the other is dangerous, that war creates abundance. I believe these are lies. Our collective moral conscience knows we are intertwined with one another's destiny, and that war is not an answer to anything. There's no such thing as a just war. I believe war is immoral. It shatters cultures and communities. It creates poverty, destroys our planet, and fractures the soul of humanity. I also believe we, humanity, is moving into a culture that sees war as an archaic and inhumane way to manage conflict, and war will cease to exist. But for now, we can pay attention to how war creates soul loss for soldiers, for our communities, and for humanity itself. We can name and call out the oppressive militarism of our country. We can elect officials who understand the financial cost of war and lift up the distorted national morality of our government. We can work towards creating and supporting programs here in Vermont that serve the most vulnerable among us. And we can envision a country, a world, where war is no longer a reality. We must, if we are to save our souls and the soul of humanity. May it be so. Amen. Okay, 169, we shall overcome.
We shall
Okay. Dr. King again, Beyond Vietnam speech. Time to break the silence. Our only hope today lies in our ability to recapture the revolutionary spirit and go out into a sometimes hostile world, declaring eternal hostility to poverty, racism, and militarism. With this powerful commitment, we shall boldly change the status quo and unjust mores, and thereby speed the day when every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill shall be made low, and the crooked shall be made straight, and the rough places plain. And Abby, who's extinguishing our chalice? I am? Okay. Can you read the words? They're on the screen as I extinguish our chalice. Thank you, everyone. There's carrot cake downstairs and lots of other goodies, so have a beautiful day. Enjoy the holiday tomorrow, and I'll see you next Sunday for flower communion. Right? Is that right? So bring a flower, right, Abby? And we're having a membership ceremony as well. It's going to be a very celebratory, beautiful day. So love you all.